There is a certain kind of person who keeps choosing an experience that the modern world has already declared inefficient. They do so not because they are confused about progress, not because they are incapable of adapting, and not even simply because they enjoy old things, but because somewhere deep inside, they refuse to let life become too automatic. At first glance, the attachment seems simple. A manual sports car appears to be a preference for mechanics, sound, control, or tradition. It looks like a hobby elevated into identity. But the deeper truth is more psychological than mechanical. The car is only the visible object. What the person is really attached to is a certain relationship with experience itself. They do not just want to arrive. They want to participate. They want to feel the weight of action, the timing of response, the intimate link between input and outcome. They want to know that their presence still matters. That is why this attachment often appears stronger than logic can justify. Because logic is rarely the true force behind emotionally meaningful choices. People become deeply attached to things when those things protect a part of them that feels threatened by the wider world. And in this case, what is being protected is not just a way of driving. It is a psychological need to remain awake within one's own life. A manual sports car asks something of the person using it. It demands rhythm, sensitivity, anticipation, and attention. It punishes passivity. It does not allow the mind to drift too far away without consequence. For some people, that demand feels burdensome. For others, it feels intimate. It creates the rare sensation that life is not merely happening around them, but moving through them. The machine becomes less like a device and more like a living exchange between intention and reality. That is why this attachment is often strongest in people who quietly feel alienated by convenience, not because they reject ease in every form, but because they sense that too much convenience can create a strange emotional numbness. The modern world constantly reduces effort, but rarely increases meaning. It makes things easier to do while often making them harder to feel. For a certain kind of person, that trade begins to feel costly. Beneath this attachment, there is often a strong internal locus of control. In psychology, this refers to the degree to which someone feels that outcomes are shaped by their own actions rather than by external systems. People with a strong internal locus of control tend to feel most alive when they are actively shaping what happens next. A manual transmission reinforces that orientation in a direct and physical way. The car responds according to the quality of their attention. It becomes smoother or clumsier depending on their skill, patience, and timing. That kind of feedback is deeply satisfying to someone who needs to feel that their actions still carry weight. But this is not only about control, it is also about self-respect. There are people who cannot fully enjoy an experience if they did not have to bring something of themselves to it. If a machine does all the interpreting, adjusting, and correcting, the result may be efficient, but it can feel emotionally thin. What they seek is not hardship for its own sake. It is the dignity of engagement. Effort, when meaningful, has a way of making a person feel more real to themselves. The manual sports car becomes a place where skill has not yet been erased, where sensitivity still matters, where a person is not merely consuming an outcome, but shaping it. That is also why this attachment often carries an undertone of nostalgia, and though not always in the most obvious sense. It is not simply nostalgia for the past, but nostalgia for a way of relating to the world that feels increasingly rare. There was once a time, in childhood or early adulthood, when many people first experienced freedom through something tangible and imperfect. The smell of the interior, the movement of the gear lever, the sound of the engine climbing through the rev range. the concentration required to do something well with the body and not just the mind. These details lodge themselves in memory, not only because they were sensory experiences, they were emotional events. They became associated with becoming someone. For some, the attachment goes back to upbringing. Perhaps competence was admired in the household. Perhaps mechanical knowledge symbolized maturity, discipline, or masculine steadiness. Perhaps earning the right to handle a demanding machine felt like a rite of passage into adulthood. In those cases, the manual sports car is never just transportation. It becomes linked to memory, approval, pride, and identity. Even years later, the person may not consciously think about those associations, but the nervous system remembers what the object came to represent. And this is where the psychology becomes more revealing. The attachment is often not only to driving, but to the kind of self that emerges while driving that way. People do not only love objects, they love the version of themselves they get to become in relation to those objects. In a manual sports car, a person may feel more coordinated, more decisive, more capable, more precise. They may feel less passive and less blurred. In a world where so many roles force people into abstraction, accommodation, and routine, that concentrated version of the self can feel deeply relieving. There is, however, a shadow side to this attachment, and that is what makes it psychologically interesting. Sometimes the love of control is also a defense against vulnerability. Sometimes the insistence on doing things manually is not only about presence, but about discomfort with letting go. A person who feels safest when they are directly involved in every transition may struggle more than they realize with trust, softness, or dependence. The attachment to the machine can hide a deeper emotional logic. If I stay skillful, attentive, and in control, then I remain protected from helplessness. In that sense, the manual sports car is not only an expression of identity. It can also be a refuge from certain fears. There is often a subtle insecurity beneath people who become deeply attached to domains where competence is visible and immediate, not always, but often enough to matter. The need to master something mechanical may partly come from the fear of becoming replaceable in a world where human contribution is constantly being absorbed by systems. When machines can do almost everything more smoothly than humans can, choosing the one space where human skill still changes the outcome becomes emotionally meaningful. It allows the person to feel that they are not yet obsolete, not yet reduced to a spectator of processes they no longer influence. That insecurity is rarely vain. It is usually more existential than social. It has less to do with impressing others than with preserving one's own sense of agency. Many people can tolerate being ordinary, but they cannot tolerate feeling absent from their own lives. The manual sports car becomes a refusal of absence, a refusal to become so optimized, so assisted, so insulated from friction, that one no longer feels the texture of living. And yet the contradiction remains. The same person who seeks authenticity through this ritual may also be using it to hold time still. Because that is another hidden layer in attachments like this. They allow a person to remain in contact with a disappearing self. Not a younger self in the shallow sense, but a more direct self, a less fragmented self. A self that once moved through life with rather than administration. As adulthood accumulates obligations, compromises, and repetition, certain objects become portals back to parts of the personality that feel endangered. The car becomes a place where seriousness falls away, and a more instinctive identity returns. So what is this behavior really protecting? It is protecting the person's relationship with aliveness. It is protecting the sense that attention still matters, that skill still matters, that not every meaningful experience should be simplified into convenience. It is protecting the part of the self that still believes life should ask something of us in return for what it gives. And in a deeper emotional sense, it is protecting against the fear that modern life can make a person efficient at the cost of becoming inwardly dulled. That is why the attachment runs so deep, because what looks like a preference is often a philosophy. The person is not merely preserving an old machine. They are preserving a certain kind of human experience, one in which mastery is intimate, presence is required, and meaning is inseparable from participation. And perhaps that is the central truth beneath all of this. The person who still drives a manual sports car is often someone trying to protect one of the last private spaces where they can still feel fully responsible for the beauty of the experience, not because the machine is better in every measurable way, but because it allows them to remain visible to themselves. And the deeper question is not why they are so attached to that thing. The deeper question is what part of themselves they would lose if they no longer needed it.